a 12-year-old girl, desperate to be with her 23-year-old boyfriend, carried out one of the most shocking family murders in Canada's history. This is the chilling tale of Jasmine Richardson and the darkness that consumed her family in April 2006, and why she's free today. In the spring of 2005, Mark and Deborah Richardson moved their family to a new home in Medicine Hat, Alberta. Mark, 42, had recently earned a promotion at his job in the oil industry, a step up from the financial struggles the family had faced earlier. He and Deborah, 48, had met years before at a gym in Sudbury, Ontario, where they bonded over their shared paths to recovery from drug addiction. They married soon after and built a life together. Their daughter, Jasmine, born on October 21, 1993, was entering her teenage years, and their son, Tyler Jacob, known to everyone as Jacob, was an energetic 8-year-old with a love for toys and playdates. Jasmine was a bright girl from the start. She excelled in school, pulling straight A's and earning spots on the honor roll. Her teachers noted her talent in fine arts, and she participated in school activities with enthusiasm. At home, the family dynamics were supportive. Mark and Deborah, having overcome their own hardships, focused on providing stability for their children. They relied on food banks in tougher times, but had turned things around. Their life appeared ordinary, with the usual ups and downs of raising kids. As Jasmine turned 12 in the fall of 2005, changes began to surface. She spent more time online, exploring social media platforms like MySpace and Nexopia, where she created profiles that exaggerated her age and delved into darker themes. Her interests shifted toward the goth subculture, black clothing, heavy makeup, and music by artists like Marilyn Manson. She started hanging out at the Medicine Hat Mall with older teens, violating school dress codes and clashing with her parents over her choices. Mark and Deborah grew concerned as they saw her grades slip slightly and noticed her posting content about serial killers and violent imagery. They grounded her, confiscated her electronics, and tried to steer her back, but the arguments escalated. In January 2006, Jasmine met Jeremy Steinke at the mall through mutual friends. Jeremy, born on January 15, 1983, was 23 years old and lived a vastly different life. Raised in Medicine Hat, he had endured a turbulent childhood, physical abuse from his father and stepfather, frequent moves, and bullying at school. Diagnosed with ADHD, he dropped out of high school at 14 and turned to drugs and alcohol early on. By 2006, he was unemployed, living in a trailer with his mother, and deeply embedded in the goth scene. On his Vampire Freaks profile, he posted disturbing content, claiming to be a 300-year-old werewolf and expressing fascination with blood and violence. He didn't know Jasmine's real age at first, but their connection formed quickly amid shared interests in the macabre. The relationship deepened over the next months. Jasmine and Jeremy communicated constantly online, exchanging messages that grew increasingly intense. Jasmine sneaked out to meet him, once leaving Jacob alone at home, which led to more restrictions from her parents. Mark and Deborah disapproved strongly of the age gap and Jeremy's influence, forbidding Jasmine from seeing him. Tensions at home boiled over. Jasmine felt trapped, and her online posts reflected anger toward her family. In private chats, the conversations turned dark. Jasmine wrote to Jeremy, "So, I have this plan. It begins with me killing them, and it ends with me living with you." Jeremy responded with violent fantasies, mentioning slitting throats and planning for the weekend. These exchanges, later recovered by police, showed a progression from frustration to deliberate intent. On the evening of April 22, 2006, Jeremy spent time with friends, watching the film Natural Born Killers, a story of a couple on a violent spree. He consumed cocaine, marijuana, and ecstasy that night. And then, in the early morning of April 23rd, he approached the Richardson home. He entered through an unlocked basement window, armed with a knife. Deborah was the first to encounter him. She screamed as he attacked her, her 12 times. The noise woke Mark, who rushed down and fought back fiercely with a screwdriver, injuring Jeremy's eye. But Mark was overpowered, suffering 24 wounds. Upstairs, Jacob heard the commotion and came out of his room. Evidence showed he tried to defend himself with a toy lightsaber, but he was multiple times, and signs indicated he had been as well. Accounts of who delivered the fatal blows to Jacob differed. Jeremy later confessed to killing the parents, but said Jasmine slashed her brother's throat, while Jasmine claimed Jeremy ordered her to Jacob once before he finished the act. Regardless, the scene was brutal. The house walls, floors, and ceilings were splattered with blood. After the killings, Jasmine rinsed the knife in the sink, packed some clothes, took her mother's purse, and withdrew cash using Deborah's credit card at an ATM. She and Jeremy then went to his trailer, where they spent time together before fleeing. That afternoon, around 1 p.m. on April 23rd, Jacob's 6-year-old friend arrived for a scheduled playdate. Peering through the front door's mail slot, he saw blood and bodies in the basement. Terrified, he ran home to tell his mother, who called the police. Officers arrived to find Mark and Deborah in the basement, Jacob upstairs amid his toys. Jasmine was nowhere to be found, and initial fears mounted that she had been abducted. The community reeled. Medicine Hat, with its population of about 60,000, had never seen such horror. Neighbors described the Richardsons as a normal, loving family. The investigation moved swiftly. Police searched Jasmine's school locker and found a stick figure drawing depicting a family being burned alive, which raised suspicions. Witnesses came forward. At a house party shortly after the murders, Jeremy bragged about gutting them like fish, and Jasmine mentioned Jacob gargling in his last moments. On April 24th, tips led authorities to Saskatchewan, about 130 kilometers away, where Jasmine and Jeremy were arrested in a truck driven by Jeremy's friend, Casey Lancaster. They were charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder each. On May 3rd, Lancaster was charged as an accessory for disposing of evidence and aiding their escape. She later pleaded guilty to obstruction. As details emerged, the motive crystallized: Jasmine's anger over her parents' interference in her relationship with Jeremy. Psychiatric evaluations diagnosed Jasmine with conduct disorder and oppositional defiant disorder. Jeremy's background of abuse and substance issues came to light, but both were held accountable. Jasmine's trial began in 2007 under the Youth Criminal Justice Act, protecting her identity as JR. She pleaded not guilty, testifying that Jeremy broke in, killed her parents, and forced her to stab Jacob while she was in a zombie state. She admitted to prior discussions, but claimed they were jokes. The Crown presented evidence of her active role, including messages and her failure to ask for help despite opportunities. On July 9th, after 3 hours of deliberation, the jury found her guilty on all 3 counts, making her the youngest convicted of multiple first-degree murders in Canadian history. 2 days after the bodies were found, Jasmine had written an apology letter to her family during police questioning, but it was ruled inadmissible due to coercive tactics. At sentencing in November 2007, she received the maximum under the youth law: 10 years under intensive rehabilitative custody and supervision, crediting 18 months served. This included 4 years in a psychiatric hospital in Edmonton, followed by 4.5 years of community supervision in a group home, and, eventually, independent living. Jeremy's trial followed. He was convicted as an adult on 3 counts of first-degree murder and sentenced to life imprisonment with no parole for 25 years. Over the next decade, Jasmine attended regular court reviews, providing updates on her progress. She studied in Calgary, met rehabilitation goals consistently, and was described as a poster child for the program. Psychiatric reports noted her low risk of reoffending. In her final review in May 2016, Justice Scott Brooker, who had overseen her case from the start, lifted all conditions. At 22, Jasmine walked free, her sentence complete, with no further supervision. Her youth records were set to be sealed permanently if she avoided adult crimes for 5 years, which occurred in 2021 without incident. She expressed thanks to the court, but no public remorse. Today, her whereabouts remain private, and she lives under a new identity. But what she did left Medicine Hat forever changed, a reminder of how hidden turmoil can shatter lives.